That is MILCK, born Connie Lim, singing her song Quiet at the Women's March in Washington, D.C. last January. She was joined by members from 2 local choirs she had never met before. It became sort of like, I think this might be a dated term, but a flash mob. That performance happened to be caught on film by a young filmmaker. It was posted online. It went viral. All of a sudden, MILCK became the voice of this huge movement. But how do you do that? How do you carry that? And do you ever actually really feel that? Now, a little over a year later, she's released a new EP. It's called This Is Not the End. And it certainly isn't. MILCK, welcome to Q.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Tom.
So, tell me how you feel listening to that recording of you and the choir from the video.
I always feel so much joy from it because it was such an unexpected gift for my whole entire life. You know, at the time when I wrote the song, I felt like I needed to heal, and I felt kind of this isolation.
Needed to heal.
Yeah, I needed to heal. I am a survivor of abuse and anorexia, and also as a woman of color, there are certain external expectations or stereotypes that are put upon me, whether I want them on me or not. And I just had enough, and it was that song that I had to write to kind of express this tension that was continuously building in my body. I'm considered an introvert, so a lot of the times in my life outside of music, I didn't know how to speak up for myself. And so it's in music how I express a lot of my real feelings. So at this time I was kind of tired of not having that voice in the real life, and just I didn't want to lean on music as a crutch so much. I was like, what about being a full human being? And so that was my healing, and that process of healing can sometimes feel isolated because it's a lot of self-reflection, and then writing music as an artist can be really isolated. Then that flash mob, which I don't know if it's a dated term, but maybe it is.
Do you think it is?
I don't know. I'm going with it.
All right, let's just, you know what?
We'll go with it. We'll own
just agree.
it.
Let's agree. We're going to be okay with it.
Yeah, we're okay with it.
Sure.
So the flash mob made me feel way not alone, opposite, total community, total unity. And then to watch the song get flash mobbed in Sweden, Australia, Ghana, I was like, there's a whole global community.
I can't imagine what that does to you.
Well, I had a fear of success because I thought the more successful I am, I'm going to get pulled away from my parents and my family. I'd be too busy for them, or they'd be unhappy, or they'd be upset with me. And then my therapist.
Sorry, I should point out that before we started this interview, we were telling therapist stories. So yes, of course, that's why we're laughing.
My therapist was saying that, perhaps you'll find a family outside of that. And then when the song went viral with that video, I got messages saying, "Thank you, sister," from men and women. So I would reply in emails, "Thank you, sister. Thank you, brother." And I was like, "Oh, I have a global family, so I don't have to feel alone if I'm getting, transported to different cities to sing this song. It's going to be okay."
So can you just tell me, how does this happen? How do you go from LA, right?
Yeah, Los Angeles.
So I call it LA.
Los Angeles.
I'm very unique, actually, in that I call it, I use a term for it that most people don't use. I take the 2 words, take the first letters. Thank you so much. I like to think that I am. My report card said that too. How do you go from, young budding songwriter in LA to performing this song at the Women's March? I know it's a story you probably told a million times.
Oh, so happy. I'm happy to share it. I had written Quiet at the end of 2015, and because it was so personal to me, I just took a deep breath. I was like, I can breathe now. And the song sat on my laptop, and I didn't share it with anyone for a year outside of some managers that heard it, and they're like, "We think this could be a song for the radio, but we want to package you and have labels understand who you are." I was like, cool, this is who I am. My artist name is MILCK. It's my last name spelled backwards and my first 2 initials. I had a whole thing. And they're like, "MILCK, that's a weird name." They're like, "Well, maybe we need to change your name and change this and change that." And the list started getting longer of what I needed to change. I was like, oh no, it's happening again, where I'm allowing people to tell me who I need to be.
Yeah.
So then I decided, okay, I need to just stand with what I believe in. And then Trump got elected at the same time, and I was kind of my own personal life. People were telling me how to be, and then I'm watching this president who had some really offensive rhetoric during his campaign get elected, and just everything around me didn't feel right. The only thing that felt right was this Facebook event that popped up that said, "Oh, Women's March. Women are gathering in D.C. to march," and I was like, get together with a bunch of women and talk about how we can make things better? Yes, please. So I immediately said going. I bought my ticket, and I thought, well, maybe I'll share this song, because maybe this song is perfect for my personal response to what Trump has been saying and the whole campaign has been promoting. So, I was thinking, should I pass out CDs at the march? Like, this is a song that seems self-solicitous and weird, and who wants to hold on to a CD as they're walking?
So I love how a practical concern came
I
in.
know.
That's
Yeah.
great.
There's a mix of like dreaminess and then practicality.
Yeah.
I was like, download cards,
Yeah.
I was like, well, what do people like? People like experience. We like, as a privileged society, we value things that we can hold on to as like a life experience. We have a lot of materials, a lot of us. Some of us don't, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I decided, okay, I could sing by myself, but I've been singing in choirs for all my life. I was like, well, I'll just write like a 7-part harmony and then recruit people to sing with me. And then somehow I was able to recruit 2 choral groups, so 25 women total, women I've never met. And so I recorded each part and then emailed it to them. We Skyped and stuff, and then we met all as a whole the day of the march. And we flash mobbed 7 times. And, I had gotten dropped by my management after I was like, I'm going to keep my name and all that. And
Why did you change your name to something else, eh?
I couldn't find anything that felt right.
Right.
And I was like, why am I trying to adjust things just to be accepted by others? It's like the whole same thing.
And there's also a certain irony to someone trying to make money off something that's this important. And I don't begrudge anyone for trying to make money, because everyone needs to make money.
Right.
And you getting paid for what you do is important.
Right.
What I mean is, there's something kind of nefarious about someone coming out and being like, oh, I got a song about not being quiet anymore, do you?
Yeah.
How about you change your name?
Yeah,
you know
totally.
what I mean? Like, there's something kind of...
Well, and what's so interesting, at that time, the context was so different because Trump hadn't gotten elected yet when they heard the song. So there was no context of this political movement, no context of like people not keeping quiet outside of me and my story of abuse and like as being a woman of color. So I don't think the gravity sunk in.
Right, I understand.
But I mean, it took a while for me to understand what was happening. When the video went viral and I started seeing it racking up millions of views, I was like, what? Why? What's happening? And I finally understood that the words were also speaking for, this movement. A lot of us have felt quiet.
I understand that this is good. Like, I understand that you appreciate that other people can experience, they can have something from what you've experienced. A very deep, a very personal song. That they can learn something from it, they can relate to it, and they can sing it about their own journeys.
Yeah.
However, is that strange at all for you to know that you wrote this about something very specific in your life, something very harrowing in your life, and other people sing it? Is it in any way strange?
I was taught to build a skill in my life. My dad's a surgeon, and so is my sister. I come from a family of healers. So my dad...
I like that a lot. That's great.
So my dad, when I was young, told me, okay, no matter what, you need to build a skill and use that skill to serve your society. And so ever since I was young, I wasn't going to be a doctor. I kind of knew I hated studying chemistry, so I was like, it's over for me. But I was like, oh, this music is my skill. So when I write songs, I walk the balance, which is a challenge, of writing a super specific song, but making sure I choose words where people can have space for themselves.
Right.
So it is part of the design of the song.
Right.
But I didn't realize it would take on a political meaning, way bigger. When the song went viral, it became like an anti-Trump song, which was not my intention.
Are you uncomfortable with that?
I am uncomfortable with anything that causes more barriers. I think I'm more interested in building bridges. Yeah. And that's just the hippie that I am.
I'm with you.
I believe in unity and peace and all those quote unquote.
Don't roll your eyes at this. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. You don't
I know.
You're not going to apologize for feeling that way.
Yeah, totally. It's it's part of that upbringing where, I had these ideas really early on in my life, and then I was taught it was too idealistic or unrealistic,
Insane, hey?
Insanity.
I know, but but you know what? I do the same thing. Like, when I talk about these things that I believe in, and again, I don't mean to impose my experience on yours, but I will say stuff like, I'm kind of this guy who believes that everyone should get along, we should all communicate with one another. And I say it like I eat too much Fun Dip or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
Yeah, I think our society kind of and parts of our society can discourage us from thinking that because it's vulnerable. I think a lot of people want that. I think at the end of the day, when people choose hate, it's just because they're scared and they've been hurt before. So when we say, I believe in love and I believe in hope and unity, it's really kind of putting it out there. It's not a hard shell. It's like a gooey center.
How was it writing music after the success of Quiet?
That's such a great question because immediately afterwards, I had writers call me up and say, "Oh, let's write another song for the movement." And I immediately froze up. I was like, that's not what I do. I write like very personal and honest songs. And if it fits what people need, awesome. But I'm not trying to be anything I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I was resistant towards that type of goal. I was just like, I'm going to write about my experience, and I'm going to have faith that my experience is universal because we're all the same at the end. And then people will pick up on that. However, I'm trying to be a more responsible citizen. So I am watching the news a lot. I am like consuming all of the things, even though sometimes it hurts.
Yeah.
And so my music is naturally starting to talk about that. Like, the rise of the kids from Parkland, Florida is really, really moving me and kind of shifting my brain. It's like, how do I write about how I feel about all that? So I'm staying very true to my craft in what I've built before everything, but I'm also trying to open myself up to new ways of writing and new approaches because that's growth.
I noticed you did Nina Simone's, or a song I know from Nina Simone.
Right, she covered that by Five Stair Step released that, and then Nina Simone covered that.
Why that song? Because it is a very optimistic message.
Yes. So I was approached by Procter & Gamble to do a commercial for a song that there were do a commercial for mothers, like appreciating mothers. And so we had a list of songs that we're thinking about. Ooh Child was the one that just really stood out.
Beautiful song, yeah.
It's such a good song. And musically, it's also very interesting. It's not like this straight ahead, like typical four chords. So it's a beautiful masterpiece. And it's become more and more relevant because I recorded that. I produced that in March of last year, and then as the year went on, with all the things that happened in 2017, that song became more and more relevant. And then, Nina Simone covered it, and she's such a big force of inspiration for me. So it just felt like such a right fit. Yeah.
What is it? It goes up in fourths? Is that what it does?
I don't know actually. It changes keys between, and it goes from major to minor. Yeah. The verses have B major, and then the other section has B minor within it. So it just like is an unexpected shift from major to minor.
It's hard to sing. I know that, and you sing the hell out of it.
Oh, thank you.
And this is the theory nerd portion.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know that. We're going to use the term melismatic shortly. It's going to be it's going to be great. Well, let me finish this way. What is it do you think people have identified with exactly here? Because I think the kind of the tenor and theme of our conversation has been, I love what your father said about, you said as a surgeon, as a healer, you develop a skill and then you use that skill to better society. Mm-hmm. I also love what you said about trying to encourage people to sing and to relate to it. I think if you look back to the early history of what we call so-called protest music in the 1950s and 1940s, it was largely, people like Pete Seeger. It was never about performing. It was never about singing his own truth. It was about trying to get as many people to sing as he possibly could, their own truths together. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious with you, and maybe I'm just going to ask it. Yeah. What is it do you think that people ultimately identify with Quiet?
I had an epiphany, and I could be totally wrong, but this is my theory. Yeah. This is my theory, Tom.
This is a theory conversation. We said that.
Nerds unite. Mm-hmm. So growing up as a first-generation Chinese American, I lived in a home where my natural instincts were very much not welcome. My parents loved me so much and they did everything for me. But when they saw my artistic side, they were scared of it. They wanted me to follow my dad's footsteps, become a doctor. And so I never quite felt heard or safe in my own home, like, because I felt my natural instincts were not going to be accepted. Like, all the things I wanted to do were considered like that's not appropriate. So I started to feel quote unquote unsafe in my own home, even though my parents were great.
I know what you mean.
Right. And so I think the nation, like the people of the U.S., felt unsafe in their own home. A lot of us felt very unheard and unsafe. And I think it's not just the U.S. Like, I was getting messages from women in Australia and saying, you know, it's not just your country. There's a lot going on.
We're feeling it here too. I think.
Yeah. So I think people aren't feeling safe. And I write from that place of trying to find that safety again within myself and that freedom. And I think that's ultimately what people want, is to feel safe and to feel free.
And this song allows them to kind of illuminate that feeling.
I think
Express
so.
that feeling.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.